Our next reader is Tammy Bergen-Batten reading her piece, Amusing Observations on the Subject of Living in Iowa City, a more than Hamlet, less than Metroplex, of which I am very fond. Thank you very much, Tammy.
It's Tembi, by the way, which you should know because everybody knows that name. If you live in Iowa City, you've probably been to a Cuban-themed party thrown by an Argentinian couple who are moving to Laos. If you live in Iowa City, you probably know the difference between an oncologist, ophthalmologist, and entomologist, and may even have dated all of the above. If you live in Iowa City, you have been charmed by adorable children playing in the fountain at the Ped Mall. If you've lived in Iowa City long enough, you've been disturbed by what you saw after a 2-year-old used said fountain as if it were a bidet. If you live in Iowa City, you have suffered at the hands of snooty kids from the Chicago suburbs who have decided to experiment with employment. There are plenty of people in Iowa City who believe in past lives, but they didn't live in Iowa City in any of them. If you live in Iowa City, you are more likely to have experienced Reiki than robbery. If you live in Iowa City, it's likely that you know a poet, and you may even have been annoyed by one. It's possible that you have an opinion about the legacy of the language poets and the disadvantages of perfecting the voice of an extremely annoying narrator. If you are a parent in Iowa City, your child has friends with 2 mommies, and probably at least one friend who used to have 2 mommies but now has 4. Your kid has been to yoga camp, puppet camp, shaman camp, and storm chasing camp, and is on the waiting list for Philosophers of the Frankfurt School camp. There's more than one person in Iowa City who is actively trying to avoid another hour-long conversation with their neighbor about the tone of the 3rd section of the introduction to her 2nd dissertation. If you shop in Iowa City, you may be wondering exactly what water the Waterfront Hy-Vee is referencing. If you garden or practice yoga in Iowa City, you are very fortunate. If you want to talk about gardening or yoga in Iowa City, you are also very fortunate. And if you don't want to talk about yoga or gardening in Iowa City, you are much less fortunate. If you live in Iowa City, you very well may be accruing or paying back student loans, but that's not going to stop you from buying a $35 bottle of wine. If you are from Iowa City, you were probably shocked by your first encounter with traffic jams and rush hour, terms that you used to associate with Saturday mornings at the Hamburg Inn. If you live in Iowa City, you have waited and waited and waited on eggs. And if you are not from Iowa City and have moved here in the last few years, don't worry. You will come to appreciate the austere beauty of 5-foot icicles and the Coralville Strip.
Thank you, Tembi. I'm sorry, I just attribute that to my occasional gin-fueled dyslexia when I'm typing things, but